All right, Rythmia, coming to you from Rythmia in Costa Rica. Rythmia Life Advancement Center here. This is our Christian Minson coming to you live. Sorry, it's been a couple minutes late. I realized that I was broadcasting from my own page and that nobody was coming on because nobody knew where to find me. So here we are now on the Rythmia page, doing our Rythmia Live. This is the weekly breathwork edition. Shelly Albers has joined, I see. Thank you. Number 3 to 5 people have showed up now. While we are waiting, I am going to announce that the book right here, Ship the Moon Said, is available for purchase, for download on Kindle version, that kind of stuff. And until April 1st, there is a contest going on. A contest which is take your picture with this book, post it on your favorite social media with the hashtag #ShitTheMoonSaid, and that's shit with an I and not a little asterisk. So #ShitTheMoonSaid, hashtag #ShitTheMoonSaid, and a little testimonial review of the book and what you thought about it. If you do this each week for the next 6 or 7 weeks until April 1st, we will be choosing one lucky winner, and that prize is to get a free trip here to Rythmia. All right, so you gotta get the book, post a picture of you with the book on social media. Facebook is a great one, Instagram, whatever. Write a little testimonial and put the hashtag #ShitTheMoonSaid with an I and not the little asterisks, all right? So that is our contest coming up for the next few weeks. And it's a great prize, a free trip to Rythmia. I know a lot of you on these calls are here to get to Rythmia. So, Asian, hi there. And so if you heard that about the free possibility of a free trip, you might be interested. Chuck Hightower, yeah, you got it. Excellent. You got the book, so do the hashtag and write the review, and you may and post it on social media, and you might get a free trip. Shelly says hi. Hi, Shelly. We're increasing our numbers here. We got about 22. I'll say that my name is R. Christian Minson, Certified Transformational Breath Facilitator and Senior Trainer for the Transformational Breath Foundation for the last 11 years. I am the resident breathwork facilitator and trainer here at Rythmia. I'm a former monk and a conscious entrepreneur. And in that vein, conscious entrepreneurship, I'm also a contributing author to this book back here, Align, Expand, and Succeed, Shifting the Paradigm of Entrepreneurial Success, which is about the merging of consciousness and business for that whole new field of conscious entrepreneurship or conscious business, of which Rythmia is. I know probably many of you are out there as a breath worker. I am been a conscious entrepreneur. And this book is available here at Rythmia if you come and spend a week with us. So my topic today is there a right way to cry? Is there a right way to cry? And this really this is framed in the emotional dimension of breathwork, how breathwork can help us on an emotional level. And people are saying, I'm great. Hi from Atlanta. Do you have to be cleared medically to attend breathwork? You don't. I think there's much less medical, what would you call them, things that you might have medically that would prevent you from being in breathwork. So virtually nothing. In fact, pregnant people can do breathwork. People on medications generally can. You'd still want to talk with the doctors and such about that, but more or less just about anybody can. Thank you for this unique topic. Jennifer, thanks. I'm glad to hear. Carmen says hi. Hi, Carmen. Debbie, hi, Debbie. And so good. We got a few good people I've seen before and people that are new for the first time. We're talking about, is there a right way to cry? And as Jennifer was saying, this is a unique topic, and I think it is, because is there or isn't there? And this is what we will explore as we move into this topic today. It's mentioning this is we're framing it from the emotional dimension of breathwork, how breathwork helps us on an emotional level. And this particular topic really comes from my years, now at least 11 years, of observing how people's emotions come up and how they express them during their breath sessions, and carrying that forward, how you basically express emotions in life. This is not just about crying, but we use crying as the main example today. But this really is about all emotional expression. Is there a right way to express all of our emotions? And we'll get into this. This probably be a little bit shorter class, other than if you got any questions. And always, one of the benefits of the Facebook Live is that this is an interactive format. So I am looking at the real-time comments, real-time things. So Linda Young just joined. Hi, Linda. So I'm seeing what's going on, and I'm seeing your comments if you want to make any or ask any questions. So please do. So think about emotions. Emotion. Emotion. The E standing for, what do you think E stands for? Energy. Energy in motion. So emotions are just energy in motion. The movement of that energy is that it begins within your bodily field. Emotion is created from within you, and ultimately its movement, its thrust is to come out of you, to be expressed. And this is the natural energy movement, the energy in motion of emotions. So emotions are an energy in motion. Now, they're meant to just move and meant to just move. And I heard a statistic once, I think, that said the average emotion lasts like something ridiculous, like 10 seconds. If you just let yourself actually feel the emotion, it generally is going to last, let me get my lights back here. It's generally going to last about 10 seconds. Now, some emotions may last longer, but the thing is, if we were just to allow emotions to flow, they basically, we feel them for a little bit, and then they're gone. It's like a weather pattern. The weather comes in, it rains, the rain finally dries up, and it moves on, the sun comes back out. So all emotions move, all emotions have a beginning and an end. The problem here is that when we feel an emotion that we're not particularly fond of, it starts to come up, and then we stop it. And so this energy is in motion, but it's just circulating here now. It's circulating in our field. And we stopped it because we didn't want it to come up. We didn't want to feel that emotion. So we suppress it and hold it down. We spend a lot of energy holding this. But this energy is still moving within us. And it eventually is going to leak out, as Sigmund Freud said, in darker and uglier ways, which is a lot of the state of the world these days. A lot of suppressed emotion leaking out creates all sorts of havoc and drama and just all sorts of world problems, basically. So here we are, we hold on to these emotions. Now, let me see what I was going to say. Back up a minute. So when we don't want to hold on, or when we don't want to feel these emotions, what do we do basically? We tense and we hold our breath. Both of these things are the mechanism that keeps this emotion from rising to the surface. So tensing up physically, we're physically holding that energy in place, and holding our breath, because it's our breath that helps us to move these emotions. And this is really the focus of this Facebook Live today, is how we use the breath to help us move those emotions in a very healthy way, rather than getting those emotions stuck. And just to look in, Aaron, Elizabeth, hi there. Victoria, hi. Victoria is here. One of my breathwork fans from San Diego. She's been through a lot of my courses and things. Nice to see you here, Victoria. Marina, hello from where? Kalawara. Jennifer Smith. But when crying may be due to a loss that lasts a whole lot longer than 10 seconds, doesn't it? Yeah. So you're right. It does last a bit longer than 10 seconds at times. And I want to make the point, though, that all emotions come to an end if you let them if you let them move. And the emotions that we experience with a loss is what's known as grief. And a lot of today's societal overlay is that, don't feel your grief. It's like, get over it. You lost one child, you've got 2 more children, be thankful. You shouldn't be sad that you lost one. I mean, crazy thinking like this. Or don't cry. How many times have you seen a little kid, stub their toe or something on the playground, and their mother's like, don't cry, don't cry. Big boys don't cry, big girls don't cry. We're taught from an early age that it's better to hold in our emotions than to express them. And so I'm here today to reverse that thinking and give us a method for helping those emotions along. So, when we have a loss, when we express grief, even if those emotions last longer than 10 seconds, they still need to move. We can't hold them down because then they last a lot longer. They're still there. If we hold those emotions down, just think, as long as we've held that energy is still cycling, trying to get out. When we finally let it go and it comes out, it can basically be expressed and it evaporates like a weather pattern would. All right, so hopefully that's clear. So this is basically an unconscious pattern that that we're holding on to these emotions nowadays. At one time, it was possibly conscious, but at this stage, it becomes a habit pattern in our lives. And just checking in. I love your work. Greetings from London. Thank you, Asian. Hi from North NC. That's North Carolina, right? Maria, excellent. Thank you. And so back to what we're saying. So how do people typically cry or express any emotions? Even when we finally get emotions moving in breath work, what people tend to do is go, they're crying, but that emotion is just locked right up here. All right, it's locked up. It's in expression. We've gotten it from being fully held down to finally coming up to express. But in that expression, it's still not fully moving. We're still not allowing that energy to move. And Jennifer says, as a child, I even got hiccups. It was so intense. Yeah, so a lot of physiological issues and problems can come from holding on to those emotions. And hiccups is not the least of them, for sure. So thank you for that, Jennifer. So how to cry is really super simple, all right? It all involves the breath. Remember, the breath is the movement the breath is the facilitator that's going to help the movement of that emotion. So instead of where the emotion is locked up, it's a simple breath in and express the emotion on the exhale and take a deep inhale. All right, so think of this. Think of the cyclical nature of this. The inhale is bringing in new, fresh energy that's then pushing out the old energy, the energy of that pain or suffering or whatever is behind the crying. And it allows then, as you exhale, to release that emotion. So the release of the crying happens on the exhale, and you take another inhale, and that fills that gap of that little bit of crying energy that you let go of is filled now with new life force energy. That new life force energy helps to push out a little bit more crying. And this, as simple as it sounds, is the difference between crying that's going to integrate, crying that's going to finally come to completion, and you're going to be able to let go of it forever, and crying that happens but you don't necessarily feel all that much better by the end of it because you still held on to some of this energy. All right, so does that make sense? If anybody out there has any questions on that, or any of the mechanics of that, please write it in the bar. The bar is over here on my page. I don't know where it is on yours, but it might be down below. And this really works for all emotions, all right? So whether it's anger again, whatever the emotion is, the expression part happens on the exhale. Just think, you're exhaling, you're letting go. So the emotion is coming out of you on the exhale. The part that people forget is to then inhale on a regular basis. So it's inhale, express, inhale, express, inhale, express. A lot of times I'll get people, in breath sessions, I'll get people to do this. They'll take an inhale and then they'll express and they'll just keep going and they'll get stuck again. So my job as a facilitator is to remind them, inhale again, and then they cry again, and then inhale again and cry. So it becomes this rhythmic pattern essentially, that we don't spend too much time in the exhale part, in the crying part, because that's again where we'll get locked up. If we just exhale and cry, now it's stuck. Now there's no movement again. So to take that inhale, it breaks the pattern and brings in new energy that allows you then to more efficiently continue to express that emotion. So let's see. Amy is saying, my grief is so painful that I stop breathing. It's fresh, so I have to remind myself to breathe. Exactly, Amy. This is exactly the point, that the emotions seem so painful that we actually start breathing. I just mentioned this earlier. What happens when we don't want to express an emotion is we tense up physically and we hold our breath. Both these things prevent that emotion from coming up and coming out. Now, unfortunately, this is not helping us. Now, why do we do it then? Why did we ever learn to? Because, excuse me, at an early age, it possibly did help us. At one point in time, let's go back to, you were a little kid in the playground and your mother or father told you not to cry when you stubbed your toe, but you kept crying. And so they came over and they smacked you in the head or smacked you in the butt. And you got this thing, if I express my emotions, I'm in danger. So we learn to shut down those emotions. And that becomes a strategy. That's the only strategy we know at that young age. And it serves us in that moment because we don't know any other way. We're not intellectually advanced enough to talk with our mother and say, I really feel like if I express my emotions, they come to completion. Just let me have my few seconds with this emotion. Have you ever seen a young child who actually is allowed to express their emotions? Basically, they cry for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. When it finally plays out, they change to a whole different emotion, especially if some friend comes by. Then all of a sudden they go with their friend and they go off and play in the sandbox. It happens. There's changing of emotional state happens on a dime because they're allowed to have that emotional expression, to let that crying come to completion, and then there's no more intensity to that energy, so a new emotion can come up, emotion of well-being, emotion of health. So when your grief, now another thing I'd like to point out about grief and being painful is that, consider this, that the pain that you feel in any emotional state is not so much what caused that grief, but your resistance to it. Right? Think about that for a second. It's not so much about the pain that you feel in any emotional state. It's not so much about whatever triggered that emotional state, but your resistance to or the fighting against the emotion as it's coming up. The more that you can allow your emotions to come up and be expressed, you'll find that the pain threshold diminishes incredibly, and you'll be able, if you practice this process, especially you, Amy, who was just talking about that your grief being so painful, it will, one, diminish the pain, and two, it will help that emotion come to completion quicker. All grief needs, all loss needs a grieving period. And that grieving period may be a couple days, it may be a couple weeks, and maybe a year. Some religious traditions actually have, when you experience significant loss, like the death of a loved one, that you would grieve for a year. There would be this period of consciously taking it upon yourself to be with the emotions of that. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, because there's really an honoring of that relationship, an honoring of your feelings. Your feelings are basically a testament to how deeply connected you were to that relationship. So all this is good to experience, but then at the end of that year, there would be a formal ceremony, and you would exit from that grieving period and return to normal life. That grieving period that lasts more than a year really starts to become an emotional blockage, and then I would suggest starting to seek help, either from a breath worker like myself or a psychologist or psychiatrist, somebody to help you, because I would say after a year's period of really being with that grief, if it hasn't come to completion, then it's stuck in a way that's not healthy for you, and you need to go figure out a way. Until that year is up, though, grief is a healthy thing. And sometimes, like I said, it might be over in 2 days, it might be over in 2 weeks. Whatever it takes, allow that time to be there. Allow yourself to feel those feelings and employ this technique. Express the feeling on the exhale. Make sure that you regularly inhale in between. The cycle should be about even, 50-50. As much time as you spend expressing the exhale, take that same amount of time on the inhale. Express, inhale, express, inhale. All right, let's see what else we're saying. Craig says hi from Adelaide, Australia. Thanks, Craig. Sheila, hello, everyone. Satya Kaur, breathing while crying is putting love into your vessel. It's very nurturing. Very, very well put, Satya. And I would say that part of that is, crying. Crying's a natural part of life. Expressing our emotions is really a fundamental part of life. We are thinking beings. We're feeling beings. We're spiritual beings. And those three dimensions, our intellect, our emotional nature, and our spiritual nature, all need expression, and for us to be a whole being, to feel balanced and whole. I mentioned in the beginning that I was a monk for 10 years, and I could see that even with people who practice intense spiritual endeavors and try to make deep spiritual connections, you can get unbalanced spiritually. I mean, to me, that's probably the highest of the three dimensions, but still, if that's the only dimension that you're really focusing on, it's to the detriment of possibly your emotional and or your intellectual dimension. So all three of those need to have cultivation, need to have balance. And working on expressing our emotions, I can tell you from my own life that this is probably the dimension of life that I've worked on the most, is to get into a better emotional expression. I grew up in a military family, being male, big boys don't cry, right? But then a military family where we're very stoic, emotion. There's no place for emotion in war, right? And being in a family that just didn't communicate on an emotional level very strongly, my life, I learned to be very emotionally suppressed, and I didn't learn an authentic and healthy way to express my emotions properly. So this has been a lifelong endeavor for me, and I can say when I learned this trick about crying and expressing any emotions, my life came to, there was such a beauty that came out of existence when I learned to finally let go and just let myself cry. And I really honor people. I watch women most commonly, but even these days, I find there's an epidemic of women who are suppressed. But anybody who can express their emotions authentically, I really just honor and admire a lot, because like I said, it's been part of my life that's been the most difficult to do. I've made a lot of progress on that, and the breath work has been probably the main tool, even more. So I'd say in my life as a monk, I developed that spiritual dimension. We were talking about the 3 dimensions, and I developed, I have a pretty strong intellectual dimension, but even in that spiritual path, I was not really addressing that emotional dimension. It wasn't until getting into breath work that I really started to play with this emotional dimension and find relief on that level. Let's see. Amira, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but that's good. So repressing the emotion is intensifying the pain. Exactly. Repressing the emotion intensifies the pain in general. Any non-expression, our resistance to that emotion is what's more painful than to actually let that emotion come up. The other aspect of that is if we just let the emotion come up, again, it could take as little as 10 seconds, could take a few days, a few weeks, but if we hold on to it, I know people come to me all the time, and myself included, and before I got the clue, we're holding on to emotions for years and decades. Can you imagine holding on to this pain, this unresolved emotion for multiple decades, and it continues to affect and color everything that you do. So that, a couple sessions of breath work where you finally can release the emotion, even if it feels a little stronger in that moment, then to carry it around for a few decades, I would choose the breath work any day. I would choose to let it be expressed. Jennifer Smith, right. The key is to remember to do this when you're in the middle of a trauma. That's right, Jennifer. And Amira. Thanks, Amira. That's how I pronounce your name. Great. But Jennifer, the ideal key is to remember to do this when you're in trauma. And that's more how I use breath work these days. It's actually, I think the highest use is to use your breath in real time. You have an emotion come up and you start breathing through it so that emotion can last only 10 seconds or 30 seconds or a few minutes. And you can get through it. But if, everything takes a little time to practice. So if you can't remember that in the middle of the trauma, the next best thing to do is as soon after that trauma to get into breathing, to get into it. I remember, I got here to Rythmia because Nicole, my counterpart, the other breath worker here at Rythmia, got in a little motor scooter accident. And she was relating her experience that when she got, she basically went off a bridge, hit the other side basically with her knee first, and then fell off backwards. So her knee was gashed open and very painful. Fortunately, she didn't need any serious surgery, but she was out for a number of weeks. But in that moment, she was, that was the trauma moment, right? She was recognizing that she couldn't breathe, these, like we breathe in the transformational breath, help, inhale, let yourself express that emotion, inhale. She was basically kind of in fight or flight mode at that point, and had just very shallow, rapid breaths going on, and that's the best that she could do. So, even a trained breath worker at times, our trauma may be very severe in the moment, and it may take us out of our ability to deal with it as productively as we'd like. So the next best thing, though, is as soon thereafter to find a place to start breathing with it and integrating that. And that's what the whole field of breathwork, my whole practice is built on that premise, that, even decades later, people can come and finally release all this pent-up energy that they've held for so long. It's been cycling and recycling within them. It can finally go when you finally choose to open up and let them be expressed. The point I'm making is the sooner to the actual experience of that emotion it gets released, the better, right? Because then we're not holding on to that emotional energy, and it's not continuing to affect us in darker and uglier ways, as Freud says. So, Jeff Clark, this is great. Thanks, Jeff. And Sheila agrees with Jeff, and I agree with you too. Excellent. So this ultimately, that was the short tip for the week. And to remind a few of you, if you came on the last minute, the healthy way to express crying or to express any emotion is to allow yourself to express the emotion on the exhale and then take a breath in to help circulate new, fresh energy to help the next exhale express that emotion again. So it's in, express, in, express, in, express, right? In about equal amounts of time. We don't want to spend express, and forget to do the inhale. That's what most people do most of the time. And still it's a subconscious, it's a subconscious sabotage in essence to not express, not fully be with that emotion by not breathing in again, because we feel like we're feeling it more as we breathe in, but we're really just helping it to release. So that is it. Let's see any more. So it is bad to hold the breath. All right, Kristen, I challenge you here to answer your own question. Go ahead and hold your breath and see how long you can do it, right? Eventually you have to inhale again, right? So let's say this. It's not bad to hold the breath in any general sense. Like if you're a free diver, you're going to hold your breath. If you don't hold your breath, you're going to be breathing in water. So holding your breath in and of itself is not bad. But in this context of emotional expression, if you're trying to express your emotions, holding your breath is generally going to hold your emotional energy in. So in that case, I would say yes, it's bad. It's not good to hold your breath. It's not serving you to hold your breath because you're just holding this energy in motion, this emotion. You're just holding it in and not letting it come to completion. All right, so hopefully that clarifies that. And Jennifer, thank you so much for this. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate your comments too. And this is what I really love is the interactiveness. Is it not embarrassing for men to cry? Only if you make it so, Asian. We've been taught that men aren't supposed to cry, so men can get embarrassed. And I dare say the first few times that I cried, I felt embarrassed because I wasn't used to it. But as you get used to it, there's almost a screw you attitude to the rest of the world. I'm gonna express myself, and if you can't handle it, I can't handle you. Sometimes I don't. don't mean that attitude as a way of life, but to say that sometimes you have to claim yourself and your own authenticity. And if you feel like crying, cry, because it's only hurting you. Well, it's not only hurting you, it's mostly hurting you to hold your energy in, but it's actually hurting everyone else around you, because now you're acting, you're communicating, you're relating to people in an inauthentic level. You're not actually showing who you truly are, and nothing ever comes from nothing good ever comes from inauthenticity. It always ends up coming to bite you in the butt later on. So during meditation, does holding the breath negate the experience? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I would say now, there are, when I practice meditation techniques, one of our techniques was to hold the breath, not to hold the breath, but to breathe slower and slower till you came to a point of naturally not breathing. And then you just sat in that space of not breathing. Now, why do we do this? Because there's a spiritual concept that the breath is the cord that ties the soul to the flesh. So think about that. The cord that's tying the soul to the flesh. When you get to a place of natural not breathing, you unattach that cord and your soul can be released from your body. So you can astral project, you can astral travel. So this was the sense, and you can be fully embodied in your spiritual self. So this is the idea behind that meditation technique. However, when we did this technique, it was always stressed that you're not trying to hold your breath. You're not forcing yourself into holding your breath longer and longer. It had to be a natural state. So we get into this calmer, deeper state, and the breath naturally starts to slow down. Your inhales and your exhales become longer and longer. And so finally, you take an exhale, and it's just, you don't feel any need to inhale for a period of time. And then all of a sudden you inhale. Then you exhale again, and that period of time expands even longer. So this is okay in terms of meditation. I would caution again against forcibly trying to hold the breath, trying to hold it in for longer and longer. All right? So my takeaway, Amira, is, so those of us who are highly emotional are very expressive beings. That's true, Amira. And though, there is the point, we're looking for the golden middle path, I like to say. I was on the side of too little emotional expression. And so that was hampering my life. We can also find that emotions can rule our lives. Like we use emotions and our emotional states to manipulate people or manipulate situations and things. So you have to be very careful when you express your emotions. Just if you're very expressive, introspect a little deeper. Am I in control of my emotions, or are my emotions controlling me? All right, and that I'm not saying that you're one or the other. I would say, from my background of being less emotionally expressive, I am more inclined to honor people's emotional expression. Though I have been in relationships and other friendships and things where people's emotions get the better of them. Their emotions then start to hamper their ability to move forward in life. So that's probably the better way to look at it, is to see if your emotional expression is stopping you in your tracks, is preventing you from moving forward, then perhaps you're being a little overly emotional. And that usually is accompanied with drama. Right? If you find that your life is full of drama, that emotional expression isn't necessarily the best. But in general, I would agree with you that if you're able to express, if you're highly emotional, you tend to be an expressive being, and that is generally a good thing if you can express authentically and keep the drama out of it. Kristen Love says hi, Kristen. Aga, you have to claim yourself and your own authenticity. Excellent. Yes, indeed. Claim yourself and your own authenticity. It's important. It's important to express yourself truly and authentically. It's true that there are breathing rhythms attached to every emotion. Is it true? Yes, indeed, Kristen. And in the autobiography of a yogi, they talked about breathing patterns which resulted in different transcendental experiences. Right, Kristen, that's the path that I actually was on, the path of Paramahansa Yogananda, the author of Autobiography of a Yogi. And a lot of the meditation techniques that we practiced were actually modified breath manipulation techniques. We really went beyond the breath to the life force energy contained within the breath, but these different techniques like Kriya Yoga, the Hong Sa technique and such, were ways to achieve different transcendental experiences, ultimately through the vehicle of breath. So thank you for that. And is it true that there's a different breathing rhythm attached to every emotion? Yeah, different breathing rhythm, different breathing pattern. I like to say the emotions that they're a little lower vibrational emotions, or emotions that we don't like so much, tend to come with a shallower, short breathing pattern, like fear, anxiety, stress, anger. When we get into those emotions that are more favorable, love, peace, well-being, they tend to come with a deeper, more fluid, and more connected breath pattern, all right? More relaxed. Right? So that in general. But yes, if we get down to specific emotions, we can start to see specific breath patterns. All right, well, more, geez, a lot more questions or comments. Hi, Katie and Sheila. Yes, too much or in excess turns very dramatic. Yes, agreeing with me there on if we get too much emotional expression. And I'd say it's the drama that's the key between, is it being just very expressive or is it being overly expressive, all right? So Tom, hi from DC. Hi there, Tom. I used to do rebirthing in the 80s. Excellent. Is this very much in alignment with rebirthing? Out of topic question. Is it true that you cannot take ayahuasca if you're on your menstrual cycle? If it's true, why is that? That I'm gonna say there's different camps, okay? I don't know why, so I can't answer that question, but I do know that if you here at Rythmia, we have 4 sessions, and the first 3, if you're on your menstrual cycle, it's the shaman generally allow that. It's permissible. The 4th session is the most traditional session, coming from the Colombian tradition. We actually have very long time practice shamans from a old lineage. And they have a belief that a woman on their menstrual cycle is very open energetically. It's like an energetic portal that not only is, let's say, I'll use the word dangerous, but I'll use that lightly, but dangerous to them, but to the whole group. Meaning a lot of energy can come through that creates a volatile experience. And, from my perspective, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but you ask people who go through experiences that are stronger and more volatile than those and have gone through more smooth flowing experiences, and they'll generally wish that they went through a smoother flowing experience. So that, to the best of my knowledge, is why. So maybe I did answer that a little bit. So if you're planning to come here, definitely try to come, in around your cycle, time it around your cycle, so that you don't find yourself having to worry about that issue. Kristen, once again, do you have a blog where you share these breathing patterns for releasing negativity? I do have a blog, pretty inactive blog. So this Facebook Live is now the closest thing to a blog, and I encourage you, if you like, to friend me on Facebook, R Christian Minson, the letter R Christian Minson, and write a little note that says, you know, I saw you on the Rythmia Live, and that's why I'm friending you. And then ask any questions like that you want me to, you know, any topics you'd like me to address here. I'd like to have more topics that are relevant to the people listening, and would love to address anything that you want to understand at a deeper level. So that's probably the best way to do that for now. Kristen and Ashley, is inhaling and exhaling connected to giving and receiving? Ah, yes. When breath is out of balance, is giving and receiving out of balance? I would say that's great, great observation and intuition. And yes, think about this. That's, you know, a lot of us, I often use this analogy. The breath is like, you know, the breath is our relationship to giving and receiving. And have you ever, you know, some of us are really great receivers, but very poor givers. And then others are very good at giving, very nurturing and giving, but have a very hard time receiving. So I usually use the analogy of the breath. Try, you know, if you're a good taker, a good receiver, inhale, inhale, inhale. Keep inhaling and see how long you can inhale before you have to exhale, right? At some point, you cannot inhale anymore before you have to let go. You have to give. You have to exhale and give to receive more. And vice versa. If you're a real good giver, but not, you know, have troubles receiving, do that. Exhale, 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 and see how long you can exhale before you finally have to inhale. The point here is that you can't do one indefinitely before the other has to happen. There is this balance, and it is a microcosmic balance of the universe, the give and take of the universe in our lives. That as much as we inhale and take, we have to exhale and give. And actually, it's the flow, that continuous flow of inhaling or receiving and taking and exhaling and giving, that is the clue to a balanced life. That if we find ourselves taking a lot in life, that we do good to bring ourselves back into balance by giving more. And what I've found is the more that you give, the more you actually receive. Now, if you're a giver, you have to allow that receiving to happen, right? So give yourself the opportunity to receive. Recognize that if you're a great giver, if you want to give more, if you want to give as much as you possibly can, you have to receive. You have to replenish your storehouse in order to give more. And that's the unique balance of life. The more we can receive, the more we have to give. The more we give, the more we make space to receive more. And it's when we hoard something, when we stop giving, that then, you know, eventually we're filled up so that we can receive no more. And that relates back to the whole topic of emotions we've just been talking about. If we're holding those emotions down in our, if we've got these emotions stuck, eventually we don't have any space for any new present moment emotions to happen. We're just living in the past. We're just living in this old emotional garbage until we finally open up the channel to express that emotion. Again, that was the topic for today. Jeff just ordered my book. Excellent, Jeff. Where'd you order it? On Amazon? Tom must admit I have fear around crying. Avoided it for years. And Tom, you're not alone. And that's, but I would say this, that fear has probably plagued you more than if you finally just let yourself cry. If you just let yourself cry, you would find that it wouldn't be as traumatic of an experience as probably all the fear you've built up around it. Remember, the resistance to our emotion is more painful than actually the emotion itself. So try that on for size. And That's it. So great, great questions, great Facebook Live today. You got me talking for, again, almost an hour when my topic basically was over in about 20 minutes, which I love, and I could do this all day, every week, is getting, fielding your specific questions, all in the, all in the name of getting you excited about the potential of breath and the potential for accessing that potential through breath work, which we do here at Rythmia. We do it here at Rythmia. And coming in May, if you're not into ayahuasca or you can't do it for medical reasons or something, we're going to start 1 week a month where all of the medicine ceremonies are breathwork ceremonies. And so we invite you to look into that, call the number above, and inquire about that if that interests you. And of course, if you're interested in the ayahuasca ceremonies, we still have in the regular week 4 plant medicine ceremonies and then 3 breathwork ceremonies that happen. So you get a little taste of both in the course of a normal week. So from Rythmia in Costa Rica, our Christian Minson signing off. I'll see you next week. I think my topic will be, can breathwork replace meditation? Can breathwork replace meditation? Interesting question. We'll find out next week. All right. Until then, breathe, do great things. All right. See you soon.